Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
Full Melt. So today kicks off the Legalize campaign in the state of Michigan. I filed this report from Lansing.
Colorado's recreational marijuana industry is growing like a weed. Nick Colas at Convergex, a brokerage and trading firm, crunched the numbers, and he found that sales of recreational cannabis in April jumped 98% year over year to almost $44 million. As sales increase, prices are falling. According to the firm's marijuana store survey, the average price for an eighth of an ounce of pot has dropped from as much as $70 last June to as low as $30 today. A full ounce has dropped from up to $400 last year to as low as $230. Alex Steele joins me now. And Alex, marijuana is subject to the same forces of supply and demand as the commodities that you cover day in and day out.
Right, and this is why this caught my eye, because it purely has to do with supply and demand. You would think there is more demand, therefore prices would rise. But the trigger for that has been lots and lots of production. Everyone wants to get in to produce and to sell, to take advantage of these booming sales. And part of that is increased competition. We've seen a lot of companies buying more warehouse space, expanding their growing facilities, and the types of environments where you can smoke marijuana has also changed. There is a bud and breakfast instead of a bed and breakfast, but they do some wake and bake breakfast. They have 420 happy hour. They have
I'm impressed that you're saying this with a straight face, by the way.
Because it's a legitimate commodity story. And they do have cannabis-infused massage. That's one example. They also have a Canna Camp Mountain Resort, which is kind of like a camp for adults, where you can't bring your own pot. You have to either, you actually can bring your own pot or you buy it. They don't supply it. But these kind of ideas wind up increasing how they're sold, therefore more supply.
The other thing that I learned from this report by Nick Colas is that sales on September 16th are expected to pick up because that'll be a tax-free day for recreational pot purchases. You're exempted from the usual 10% sales tax.
Yeah, not only that, but they actually lowered the sales tax to about 8% that will take effect in 2017. So there will be an overall reduction in how much you will have to pay.
Why is that?
Triggered also helping sales. That's an effort to kind of squeeze out the black market to make it more legit. So if it's more attractive to buy it legitimately, you won't go elsewhere to do it. What was also interesting in the report is that more people are buying. This is true. We've seen that. But they're actually spending less money. When they do, so they're not spending the same amount of cash. So about
the novelty is
$50 per visit versus $100 per visit, but they're just more people doing it. So I loved it. It was a full-on commodity supply and demand story.
Except that we're talking about pot, and everyone's got to make some Jeff Spicoli reference as a result.
You do. I do not. Very serious.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
844-420-TALK is the number you can call if you want to reach us here at the Full Melt Show. Welcome to the Canlock No Smell phone lines and the PetPain.com studios as we kick off another program. I tell you, it's been an interesting last few days. So Friday of last week, terrible auto accident in the nearby area. I hate it when auto accidents keep you from getting into the studio. That is not fun. You know, I once knew I'll give you a couple of quick radio stories. Like, when I worked in Gaylord, Michigan, which is the snow belt of the state, and at some point I remember doing morning radio out there. And when I'm just going to say, when I mean snow belt, I mean snow belt. And this was in the later 80s, but up there getting ready to go to work one morning, and the guy on the radio who does the morning show, I'm listening to the morning show. It's a different station. It's not the one that I work for, but he's on the cell phone doing his show from a cell phone, which was, not often heard of in those days. Was it a cell phone? Maybe it was a landline. I think he was calling from a landline, like he was riding up on one of the plow trucks because he couldn't get through. The plow trucks had to take him to work. He hitched a ride with the plow trucks on the way to work. But I don't think it was a cell phone. Now that I think about it, I think he was calling from a landline, and they were. I also heard what was it? There's another story like that. about. So, I remember the guys over at WJR in Detroit doing the. Who was that guy? Who was it? Was it J.P. McCarthy? Somebody was doing their show from the phone in the car. And I don't remember what the details. But it's weird when radio people aren't in the studio because there's something preventing them from getting to the microphone. It's just weird. That happened to us on Friday. This thing about marijuana prices in Colorado going down. I think this is a kind of a significant story just because, and I'm just kicking the show off with this story because I think it gives a broader perspective of what everybody clamors for in this industry, which seems to surround the subject of money. It seems like there are so many more interesting things to talk about in the cannabis industry other than money. But as it relates to that topic, it seems like the forces happening in Colorado, the petri dish of American research on the experimentation with cannabis policy in the United States, as they say, has caused the prices of marijuana to go down primarily from a couple of reasons. Increased production from two different locations. First, expanded production from existing facilities. Second, new competition. This is the beauty of America, isn't it? When you've got competing businesses driving market forces and innovation in industry. And on a broader perspective, if you consider the jobs associated with the boom in economy associated with this in Colorado alone, you have to understand that housing prices are going up considerably in the Denver area particularly, but in Colorado as a whole. Property prices are going up. Rents are going up. Employment going up. Income going up. When you talk about employing a brand new industry and giving it, feeding it, watering it, giving it the things that it needs to grow, and then letting it just go, you create this whole dynamic of industry around all these little ancillary businesses that go to support this new industry. It's like the auto thing. When they did the auto bailout back here in the recent Great Recession. A horrible thing, by the way, that Great Recession. You saw the prices of jobs affect markets in horrible ways. And I think when you look at marijuana as an industry, when the auto bailout happened, you have these big companies that are, really industrial icons, worldwide industrial icons. I mean, this is the Motor City. You see all the little, when you talk about a business like that big failing, you see all the little businesses surrounding it that create so much economy that you don't even see in the shadow of that big auto company being affected. And you're talking jobs in suppliers of parts to cars, outsourced parts. No, we're not talking about parts outsourced to other countries. We're talking about parts outsourced to a manufacturer of tubing or a manufacturer of rubber products or a manufacturer of seating, upholstery, all the things that go into making a car. The car companies are into assembly, stamping, painting, all that stuff. But a lot of the other components are finished outhouse. They're done in some other building in another city in the state or in another part of the country, or in some cases out of the country. They ship that stuff in and they just put it on the car when it gets here. It's a lot cheaper to do it that way in many cases. And so you start looking at all those little businesses that surround it, and it almost adds up to more than the company itself, the car company itself. The jobs that are linked to these things. The economy that's boomed as a result of it. I mean, all those jobs contribute to a lot of taxes. They contribute to a lot of economic force in local businesses that that don't have anything to do with the auto industry, or in this case, the marijuana industry. Bet you the food industry is doing a lot better in Colorado. I'll bet you the people that are doing retail marketing in commercial business space, whether they're selling or renting, whatever it is, gone way the hell up. This is what people are looking at. This is what you should be rubbing your hands together about over legalization in 2016 in Michigan and in other places. When you get, even in the medical marijuana market, this creates a booming industry. And the ancillary businesses that surround it are really too numerous to count, let alone see from a perspective of imagining it, trying to use the mind's eye to capture the entirety of it before it happens. It's really difficult to do. But there's a lot of it, a lot more than you would even think. And I think Colorado is the gleaming example of that. Prices go down in marijuana. Now, that's going to cause some inward pressure, isn't it? Because that's a bit of a bubble problem, like any other, industry where it's going to go up and down in cycles to some extent. It'll be interesting to watch this play out in Colorado, the way things happen, how industry and government responds. You heard in that news clip from Bloomberg News at the top of the show there, this idea that they're having this tax holiday, and then they're also having a reduction in taxes taking effect in 2017 in an attempt to address the issue of the black market that still exists. According to the reports that are associated with this news story that prompted that from Bloomberg News, says that of the millions of dollars being made in the marijuana industry every year, or hell, every month for that matter, 60% of it, only 60% of it is associated with legal retail sales through, approved venues. That other 40% is still black market. It's way too big. It's even bigger than the overburdened 30% that was way bigger than they thought would exist when they put this system into place. Because remember, when you're putting in a regulated system, the whole idea is to stamp out a black market. It's like that with all of these, sin businesses, the alcohol, marijuana is the same. When you start talking about cigarettes, when you start talking about these things, there's a lot of money associated with it. And I think it's important to pay attention to other market indicators, other markets that are similar, anticipate what's to come. When these when the prices of marijuana go down, you end up with a situation where more competition may be spurred off. It's not as attractive to start a new business to compete with the other already, burdened businesses with this competition and this price slump. The whole series, CNN's High Profits, revolved around this subject. And you saw, if you watched any of that, how these pot barons end up rolling and punching with the changes in the marketplace. And there are more of them to come. Like I said, it will be interesting to see what happens. More on the marijuana news front coming up next on The Full Melt Show. Hang out right there.
You're getting the full melt.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. 571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power Monster Aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
This summer, discover the one place where your family will create unforgettable memories. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Rated PG-13.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in Negril, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at TravelCannabisCup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at TravelCannabisCup.com.
So this is Brian Rogers
and Caitlin McGuire
from CNN's High Profits.
And you're listening to The Full Melt Show.
Some people want me to be heads or tails. I say no way, try again another day.
So I'm going to see if I can get Bill Levin on the program right now. I'm just going to text him real quick. I didn't ask him in advance, but I'm going to, while I'm telling you this news story, I'm going to text him right now and see if I can't get him to call the program. Bill Levin is... he is a guy in Indiana. And he's more than just a guy. Look, he's a cannabis supporter. He's a cannabis fighter. And at the beginning of this fight, hang on, I'm going to type this number here. 844-420-TALK, which is 8255. Oops, typed it wrong. 8255. There we go. About the first church service in Indiana. We'll see if he's, we're on right now, I'm going to tell him. I don't know why I didn't, why am I typing this? Because I'm saying it to you, I could be saying it into the text to talk, couldn't I? There we go. We're on the air right now. I don't know if he's going to get the message. He probably won't. But being that I've got his Facebook page there, I figured I'd ask him about it. If you go to Bill Levin's Facebook page, BILLLEVIN, you'll notice, and we've had him on the air before, talking about how the RFRA, which is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in Indiana, plays out when it relates to marijuana. Now, what we were telling you before was... it's kind of an amazing story. This Religious Freedom Restoration Act put together by conservatives in the state ended up kind of backfiring on them in the way that it prevents government action. It prevents the intrusion of government on religions, on churches, on sacraments, on ceremonies. It prevents the state from having anything to do with what they got going on. To an extent. The question is, to what extent is that? Now, the idea here was that Mr. Levin was creating a church service around cannabis. It's a cannabis religion. Now, they're not worshiping cannabis. They're using cannabis as a way to get closer to God. That's what they're saying. That's what the idea is. It's a very Rastafarian notion that you could use cannabis as a sacrament to your religion to get closer to God. That's the idea. I'm not a churchgoer. I wouldn't be in there doing this. I'm not suggesting you should or should not. What I do has no impact on what you should or should not do. Certainly. Not implying that at all. What I am saying is that these people intend to use cannabis as a sacrament to their church rites. Now, a lot of people would say there is no marijuana religion. How ridiculous. Well, there is no distinction in this law about what is a religion and what is not a religion. He has filed with the estate on the same day that the governor signed this bill into law in Indiana. Bill Levin went down and filed paperwork to begin the first church of cannabis in Indiana. Now, I've been watching and waiting and waiting and watching to see what was going on with this because it may take some time to organize a church service, I would think. One would think. In this situation, the recent news came out, and I'll just reference the article here for you real quick, that there's been some, I don't know, I would call it kind of a back off from Mr. Levin about this subject, and it makes sense. I'll read you this story. This is out of the Indy Star, so in Indianapolis. Cast the first stone from the biblical verse John 8:7 is seen at the left in this photograph. there is a sign for the church services, and I'll tell you where it's at. It's at 341 South Rural in Indiana. It's at the home of Deity Dozen. Deity Dozen. Deity, D-I-E-T, D-E-I-T-Y Dozen. Deity Dozen? Really? This is what the sign says. The First Church of Cannabis will not have cannabis for its inaugural service this Wednesday, church founder Bill Levin announced in the Indy Star. IndyStar.com, I'm reading the article from. Marion County Prosecutor Terry Curry and IMPD Chief Rick Height had a news conference Friday to warn about arrests if people had marijuana. After that news conference, Levitt said it changed nothing about his plans. On Monday afternoon, though, it did change. That's today. Right now, he says, we do not want to address this in criminal court because it's not a strong hand. Levin said this in an interview with the Indianapolis Star. If we address this in civil court, we have a stronger hand. Levin says his lawyers will be filing a civil action after the state's Religious Freedom Restoration Act goes into effect Wednesday. That's why we've been waiting. I didn't realize that it didn't take effect right away. That's what the story reveals, isn't it? Wednesday's when it takes effect. So that's when the first church service was going to happen. Now it's all coming together. So the nature of the lawsuit is unclear, but the church contends that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which limits government's encroachment on religious freedoms, in effect legalizes the use of marijuana at church. Curry said he might also be in favor of clarifying the issues through civil litigation. Our goal all along has been to prevent a situation where there is a confrontation, Curry said. I understand the political nature of this event, and my point in meeting with Mr. Levin leading up to July 1st was to limit any arrests and explain the potential legal consequences based on current law. Levin, who made the defiant comments after the law enforcement news conference, took a different tone on Monday. Due to the threat of police action against our religion, I feel it is important to celebrate life's great adventure in our first service without the use of cannabis. Imagine that. Levin wrote on his Facebook page, the police department has waged a display of shameless misconceptions and voluntary ignorance. We will do our first service without the use of any cannabis. Cannabis, and this is all in caps, cannabis will be prohibited on the first service. What Levin says is we will not be dragged into criminal court for their advantage. We will meet them in a civil court where the laws are clear about religious persecution. We do not start fights. We finish them. One love, he says. The inaugural service is scheduled for noon Wednesday at the church at 3400 South Rural Street. That's what it is. In Indianapolis. Several of the responses to Levin's Facebook posts criticized the move. I'm disappointed the police scare tactics have worked, one response said. Civil disobedience is an honorable tactic that often works where other less confrontational methods fail. Backing down sends the wrong message, said another. Levin wrote his own message to people criticizing the move. We will win this on the high plane of dignity and discipline, Levin wrote, not in a criminal court from a rowdy brawl with law officers. An attorney for Melissa Hubbard, a self-described activist who plans to attend Wednesday's service, sent a letter to Curry. The letter informed the prosecutor of the church's intent to proceed Wednesday without marijuana. The letter also expressed concern that the police might still carry out arrests for visiting a common nuisance. A move law enforcement discussed at Friday's news conference. Visiting a common nuisance. This church is a common nuisance. If someone appears at the event with marijuana and is arrested, that person will have done so without either my client's knowledge or intent, the letter said. My client's attendance at the service at this event is based on legitimate reasons protected by our constitutions. So that's an interesting turn of events, isn't it? We'll see if we can't get Bill to call during the program. If he's available, I'm sure he will try and respond. There's a big, beautiful picture of Bill Levin apparently outside of his church with a lovely peacock. I'm not sure which one is the peacock. They both have similar hair. I'm just saying. If you've ever seen Bill Levin's hair, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's an interesting to say. I think that you're picking a fight here, and I think it's the right fight to pick. If you're going to use law and start dragging together law and religion, I think those are two things that really don't mix. I think it's a clever tactic. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a punch in the eye to the people who think that, they can create these, laws regarding a religion. The laws regarding a religion, aren't they really written by the churches, not by the legislature? And what constitutes a sacrament in a religious affair? The country was founded on religious principles, predominantly Christian ones, but it's freedom of religion. It's also in the Constitution, isn't it? You have the freedom to, believe any religion you so desire. There are no limits in the Constitution placed on that ability. People demanded it when they came here. Hey, we're going to limit church and state. We're going to separate church and state. We're not going to allow church into the state. This is one of the things they ran from when they, had the whole Continental Congress and all this business about separating from England. We fought a war about this, becoming our own country. It's the 4th of July. We're celebrating those events as we speak. I mean, this is the time of the year back in 1776 when this stuff got done. I think it's fitting that this happens in the light of this event. It's funny that the law happens to take effect at the same time we're celebrating our nation's freedom, which relies upon these fundamentals, religious freedom. And this law is about religious freedom, isn't it? Why do you need a further law about religious freedom? I'm just wondering. Because I think it was covered in the Constitution, generally. This prevents government from interceding in religious practice. Now, if you're going to initiate that law, I'd say it's a double-edged sword. And I'd say the edge that you bore about really discriminating against gay people. That's what that was really all about. I don't care what face you put on it. That's what that's what those people down there were doing. This is about discrimination. Make no bones about it. The people behind that bill in Indiana were about having the ability for businesses to discriminate legally against a class of people, which the Supreme Court just said last Friday they have the right to marry. Well, that's a controversial thing. It's still going to be controversial for a bit. Here in Michigan and in Texas, more predominantly in Texas, they're attempting now to say that the people to prevent gay people from getting married, to prevent the honorance of law at the highest level from the Supreme Court. This is settled law nationally now. Nothing is going to shake this. But Texas wants to insert another legal battle by saying, okay, well, we're going to take, since most clergy people will not perform ceremonies between same-sex couples, we're going to take the ability for public officials to take a pass on that. Or so that you could probably even make an edict. Hey, you suddenly don't like to do ceremonies because it's uncomfortable. If it's not uncomfortable, I'm going to make it uncomfortable for you. Or they will outlaw civil ceremonies by public officials. I think that's unconstitutional as well, based on the Supreme Court standing that was just put up on Friday, and also this one that's the Equal Protection Clause, which is what that's based on, isn't it? You got to treat everybody equally. That's what that basically came down to. It really wasn't about religion. It was about equal treatment. And the laws that surround marriage that provide certain rights and certain abilities to people who are in that contract. If you only say it's a religious contract, the other people don't get to enjoy it. And that's what they're saying. It's got to be equal treatment, so you have to allow it. If you don't allow these civil ceremonies and force this into a place where the religion has to refuse it, I think you're doing two disservices. Three. One to the couple, one to the Constitution, and another one to the effort in the first place. The church should not be put in the position of having to refuse these couples, especially given the Supreme Court ruling. I think it's a horrible position to place people in, but it's a double-edged sword. That's the one they bore out in Indiana. That's the one that they wanted to really thrust at people, was this discriminatory edge to this law. The other blade, the other side of that sword, is double cutting, and I don't think that they saw that they created a double-edged sword, and that's what Bill Levin is pointing out. If you're going to use this, we're going to use it back against you in this way. We'll see how the RFA stands up in civil court, because that's where Bill Levin intends to take this, is to civil court. And I think he's 100% right. It's a great move, and I think his attorneys have advised him well. Don't have open cannabis given this new threat from law enforcement. Hey, if you got your cannabis in church, we're going to come and arrest you. Really? Well, let's just see if your new law doesn't change that. So it'll just be a few more days, and we'll see what goes on, because I think the lawsuit can't really be the reason this lawsuit probably hasn't already begun in civil court is because the law hasn't taken effect yet. It doesn't take effect until Wednesday, when they still plan on holding their church service anyway, absent cannabis, until they can file this suit on the same day. So you can't file a suit against a law that hasn't taken effect, because the law didn't take effect yet. You wouldn't have any standing in court yet. What law? It's not here yet. Wait until it comes into effect, and then bitch about it. You have no complaint until it takes effect, because there is no damage or harm. And I think in the civil case, you're going to say that the violation of the RFRA as it relates to marijuana use, cannabis use in this First Church of Cannabis in Indiana, that's the first strong challenge to the law, right? That's also a double-edged sword. Hey, if we win this case, we get to use cannabis in church as a sacrament, and the police can't do boo about it unless they modify that law, which I assume would be forthcoming soon. I think they would look at changing that law statewide if indeed this tested in court positively for the First Church of Cannabis in Indiana. It's not the First Church of Cannabis. There are many more. Hello, Colorado, ring-a-ding-ding. There's a lot of them out there, the Green Church. So in a few days, when we find out what happens on Wednesday, we'll follow this for you as information becomes available, because I think this is something you'll probably see in the nightly news, if not now or preceding this event on Wednesday, after the case is filed. I think you're going to see Bill Levin's face on magazine covers and in television news pieces unexpectedly. You know why? Because number one, he's a great character. He speaks well. Number two, he's an interesting-looking character. He stands out. And number three, he's got a dog bone in his jaws, and he's shaking his head around like a bulldog. And good for you, Bill Levin. Good for you, man. Because somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to strap on some nuts and walk up and say, this is how we're going to handle this. Double-edged swords. So in a minute, we got more news about cannabis. There's other stuff up our sleeve here on the Full Melt program. Don't go away. Commercial break, and we'll be right back. 844-420-TALK if you want to join us and have a comment or a question on the program today.
The Full Melt.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Alkaline water, herbal remedy, essential oil.
Sacred Elements.
Natural and organic shampoo, lotion, pain cream, bath salt.
Sacred Elements.
Beeswax candles and handmade crafts, canes and walking sticks, artwork, jewelry, and repurposed goods.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
You know, it's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in Negril, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at TravelCannabisCup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at TravelCannabisCup.com.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power Monster Aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Hey, just as a program note, I'm going to tell you on Wednesday of this week, mark your calendars for Wednesday, all things Danny Danko, High Times' own Danny Danko, our guest on the program on Wednesday. If you get a chance, right there at the top of the page at fullmelt.com, thefullmelt.com, you'll find a real easy way to subscribe to the program. Click on the iTunes link and subscribe. It's just that easy. Some interesting news out of New Orleans. This is, of course, in the South, the lovely South. Bobby Jindal, the governor down there, Monday signed 2 bills in Louisiana that in 1 year represent more progress on reforming marijuana laws than the state has made in the last 24 years, since legalizing medical marijuana in 1991. In the case of one of the bills, which would set up a framework for dispensing marijuana for medical purposes, SB 143, it will make Louisiana the first state in the South to make marijuana available for a wide range of chronically ill patients. The state passed medical marijuana legislation in 1991, but never set up a framework for how the state would cultivate, prescribe, or dispense the drug. The other bill, HB 149, would reform criminal penalties for marijuana, making it a misdemeanor rather than a felony for a second offense of marijuana possession. It also allows first-time offenders to erase their first criminal conviction for possessing marijuana if they don't reoffend within 2 years. Jindal has previously indicated, this is, by the way, on NOLA.com, NewOrleansLouisiana.com, NOLA.com, for both pieces of legislation, but in a departure from other major bill signings, I should say, Jindal did not issue a press release explaining why he signed the bills or offer any commentary about the importance of the 2 bill signings. Wow. Talk about chicken shit. That's all I got to say about that. One of the reasons the 2 bills were seen as so important, he's running for president, remember. So important this year is that the bill sponsors managed to convince key opponents in years past, including the Louisiana Association of Sheriffs, not to stand in the way of the legislation this year. And, what the hell? This is a big WTF moment when you start to see, I really get pissed off, when you start to see branches of the government commingle. There is a separation of powers in the Constitution. The executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. They separated these powers discriminately, definitively, for a good reason. It's not to give any one branch too much power. And this is part of what the Supreme Court there, it's their part of the judicial branch. They sit and, decide some of these issues. What pisses me off is when you've got members of the executive branch, which are the police, mixing together with members of the legislative branch by way of lobbying over issues. The police shouldn't be having any say about drug control policy. You know why? They're not experts in that subject. And what police do, the function that they perform in society and that the government has prescribed to them, does not give them the ability to influence these laws. And I don't know why legislators continue to let them do it. At some level, I think that sometimes they allow police to go in and have influence in these public hearings on these subjects, not as a matter of do we have the ability to perform the legislative task the legislators handing to us, because that's what they should be doing, taking down, marching orders. The legislature creates the laws. Law enforcement, the executive branch, defends those laws, protects those laws by having police them, enforcing the laws. That's the job of the executive branch. The legislative branch has no business allowing them to influence the laws that they're policing. This is a giant basic conflict of interest principle. So it really makes me angry because this happens in all legislatures. It happens even federally. And it shouldn't be going on. Somebody should be challenging the idea that these organizations who have no standing in this place, they are not educated on these things. And regardless of their level of education or expertise, they're not tasked with the legislative branch's ability. They shouldn't be affecting the laws that they, police. The laws that they enforce should be created wholly and solely by the legislature. The only question the legislature should have for the police, and the only time they should be giving legislature input about the creation of a new pending bill, is do we have the ability to enforce this? Can we do what you're asking us to do? If the answer is yes, then go away. Goodbye. We're done with you. Dismissed. So it really bugs me. So one of the reasons, they're talking about the police didn't step in the way. The Sheriff's Association did not endorse the legislation, but it also did not seek to block it. And again, I just want to emphasize, what the hell do you have any business in there doing to try and block it? Various efforts to pass similar legislation failed in the past. Some organizations, including the Sheriff's Association and the District Attorneys Association, who profit from these adventures, you remember, consistently framed the bill as an attempt to bring Louisiana's criminal penalties for possessing the drug more in line with other southern states. So, they're just trying to level the playing field as compared to their neighbors, so they don't fall behind the times. It's keeping up with the Joneses. It certainly isn't blazing a path. And I would suggest that if you're ever looking at somebody like Bobby Jindal as a presidential candidate, you're looking in the wrong place. Just saying that. So since then, according to the News Star of Monroe, LSU has indicated it would be willing to cultivate the drug in one of 19 ag center sites throughout the states. Is not clear to who would process the marijuana plant once it is cultivated. The medical marijuana bill was sponsored by Senator Fred Mills. He's a Republican from Iberia. The two criminal penalty bills, which were later modified to essentially become the same bill, were sponsored by Morrell and State Rep Austin Baden. He's a Democrat from New Orleans, respectively. So that's the big news out of Louisiana. It's nice because it's good to see that Louisiana is taking that step forward. But from the standpoint of the governor signing the bills, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong about this because I haven't looked into the legislative end of this, but I'm pretty sure Louisiana is a pretty red state. I'm pretty sure they're pretty solid Republican down there. And so when you got a guy who's the governor of that state running for president and remaining moot as he signs these bills, it gave no commentary, nothing about them. It's almost he did it in defiance. I wonder if Indiana is one of those states where if the governor doesn't sign the bills, it's not necessarily a veto, but because he could veto it. There's a way to veto the bills. But if you don't sign the bills, it's kind of a way of saying, well, I'm not going to approve them, but they're going to go into effect without my signature anyways because I didn't veto it. That's another way that this could have been handled. That would have probably been the better way, I think. If you're not going to say anything about this, Governor, when you sign the bills, given how considerable the news is, I mean, this is a lot of years. 24 years have gone by since any addressment has been done to the original medical marijuana laws. You created them in name and you did nothing with them. And then now that finally something's being done in the light of changing American values, I don't even know if it's changing American values. The values are the same. I think this is just a readjustment of the focus of where we put our attention and efforts and waste our money. Because we're still wasting our money. We're just not wasting it anymore on marijuana. That's what this is all about. That's why these other southern states have modified their positions. There is also other news taking place. And I think this is kind of an interesting bit. Time Magazine put out this story about Minnesota taking a half step towards legalizing marijuana. Do we have time for this? Oh, jeez. I might have to, we're going to be interrupted by the break for this. Pills and oils are approved, but smoking marijuana remains prohibited. I'm going to try and squeeze through this before the break comes. Minnesota easing a statewide ban on medical marijuana products Wednesday, approving the use of pills and oils for seriously ill patients while upholding a ban on products that can be smoked. Under the new law, users will be able to use liquid and pill extracts of marijuana plants, provided they are suffering from serious conditions such as epilepsy, HIV, and cancer, the Associated Press reports. The law also restricts sales only to 8 dispensaries within the state. While legalization advocates hailed the new rules as a step forward, they argued that Minnesota's approach was unusually restrictive, potentially excluding patients living in rural areas or on tight budgets from obtaining the drug. And this is really what I think people don't, necessarily understand. From the legislative standpoint, when you're crafting these laws about how safe access can be made. Ultimately, that's what you're trying to do, is provide some level of access to these people because they need it. And in a condition where these people need this medication so desperately, for you to do this and not provide a method by which all people throughout the state can have equal safe access, this becomes problematic. It's one of those baby step processes, and I keep repeating that this has always been a baby steps issue, that you'll not ever get satisfaction in one fell swoop on this subject. Nobody's going to just change federal law and make this legal all of a sudden. This is going to be an experiment among states. There are going to be various and sundry ways that states accomplish this. It's the cycle that we're in right now. It's what Pennsylvania's doing. It's what Ohio's doing. It's what New York is doing. New Jersey's doing this. Florida's in on the mix. Louisiana, Minnesota, Michigan is still in on this mix. Indiana's in on the mix. Georgia is in on the mix. Tennessee, Kentucky, in on the mix. Hemp and other bills. It's changing. It's coming. Deal with it. More next.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dort Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Full Melt Show.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
I've been counting on my steps.
I'll tell you about this thing out of the New York Times. Dateline Washington. For all the aspiring and current spies, diplomats, and FBI agents living in states that have liberalized marijuana laws, the federal government has a stern warning. Put down the bong, throw out the vaporizer, and lose the rolling papers. It may be now legal in Colorado and Washington State and elsewhere, but possess and smoke marijuana, and you're not going to get a federal job. Those laws outlaw it. It's a fireable offense for government workers. I'm reading to you from the New York Times. As rules that make it a fireable offense for government workers have remained rigid. As a result, recruiters for federal agencies are arriving on university campuses in those states with the sobering message that marijuana use will not be tolerated. So members of a new generation are getting an early lesson in what their predecessors have done for as long as there's been an espionage, diplomacy, and bureaucracy. They are lying and, when necessary, stalling to avoid failing a drug test. As any regular marijuana smoker will tell you, it usually takes about 2 weeks for evidence of marijuana use to disappear from urine, a urine sample being the method by which drug use ordinarily is tested. Delaying something is part of what a good diplomat is supposed to know how to do, said John, a young American diplomat who lives in Washington, D.C., where marijuana use became legal this year. If you can put off a test for 2 weeks, I mean, come on. He spoke on the condition that only his first name be used in an effort to avoid losing his job. Government officials who have gotten a high are hardly rare. And the long list of elected officials who have admitted to past use of marijuana and other substances starts with President Obama, who wrote that he had used both marijuana and cocaine. But there's a widening chasm between what voters are willing to tolerate and what federal agencies will allow, leaving men and women who are trying to build careers in government with a choice between honesty and their ambitions. The CIA requires that its job candidates be generally drug-free, generally is in quotes, generally drug-free for at least a year, and ask potential hires about past use, according to Lisa Asbill, an agency spokeswoman. But how much past use constitutes too much is not clear. The FBI has even tougher standards. The Bureau insists that recruits refrain from marijuana use for at least 3 years before hire. Yet even the director of the FBI, James B. Comey, acknowledged last year that his agency's rule could hurt recruitment, although no federal agency has yet offered specific numbers or other evidence that they're having trouble filling jobs. I have to hire a great workforce to compete with those cyber criminals, and some of those kids want to smoke weed on the way to the interview, he said at a conference on white-collar crime in May of 2014. Some members of Congress were not amused by Mr. Comey's suggestion that the FBI needed to ease its drug standards, and he soon made it clear that the Bureau had no plans to radically revamp its policies on marijuana use. Spy agencies have seen no discernible impact in recruitment as a result of the changes in state marijuana laws, said Joel Melstad, a spokesman for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Across the rest of government, standards vary for drug testing and for how much past use is permissible. Law enforcement jobs, unsurprisingly, tend to be the toughest. There are also less obvious government employers that insist on testing hires before they start, such as the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. A posting for an associate director for ecology at the agency on usajobs.gov website said that pre-employment drug testing is required. But the National Park Service, in a posting for a science education coordinator, might as well say marijuana smokers are welcome. The announcement states outright, this is not a drug-tested position. If you work for the parks, you might be a pot smoker, just saying. If you're given a tour at the presidential faces on the side of the mountain, might be pot smokers, those guys, especially given the place that thing's located. Catherine Archuleta, the director of the Office of Personnel Management, which has oversight of the federal bureaucracy, sent a government-wide memorandum in late May reminding employees that even though several states in the District of Columbia have decriminalized marijuana, federal law on marijuana use remains unchanged. Drug involvement can raise questions about an individual's reliability, judgment, and trustworthiness, or ability or unwillingness to comply with laws, rules, and regulations, Mrs. Archuleta said in a memorandum. The State Department does not test people before they are hired and has had no time period for which applicants must be drug-free before joining the ranks. Viewed that way, the State Department's rules may seem relatively permissive. Marijuana smokers like John, who is among a small number of State Department employees who are selected for random drug testing, get 30 days to submit a drug screen. 30 days. I would say that chances are even moderate use, moderate to heavy use of marijuana, consumption of marijuana on a regular basis, a daily basis, will probably dissipate metabolites in your system at the end of 30 days to the extent that they are no longer detectable. This is a urine test. If you're doing other types of drug tests, this would be much harder to pass. That was plenty of time, said John. I made sure to give myself 18 or 19 days, and then I did it. Once they have started working, federal employees are supposed to grow only basil and oregano in their gardens, while their neighbors in Washington are allowed to cultivate marijuana. Based on interviews with a handful of federal workers living here, John's marijuana smoking story is not unique. One recent federal hire with a security clearance said he and many of his friends believed that the government was basically asking them to lie when applying for jobs. The hire, a university graduate from a western state with liberal marijuana laws, was adamant that neither his name nor the agency where he was about to start working appear in print. Another State Department official who joined the diplomatic corps a few years ago said that he decided to grow a few marijuana plants in his backyard. He had tried to grow his own in college, but his landlord spotted the plants and quickly halted the project, saying it was illegal. Now the official owns his home here in Washington, where it is legal to grow up to 6 plants, and only 3 can be mature at any given time. If discovered, he said, he would claim that the plants belong to his wife, who does not work for the federal government. But he was not eager to test that excuse. He asked not to be identified by name and added, I don't think I'm going to have my boss over here for a cookout. Mr. Obama, who wrote his 1995 memoir, Dreams from My Father, that he had frequently used drugs during his youth, is not alone. Former Governor Jeb Bush and now presidential candidate from Florida, and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, 2 Republicans who hope to become president after Mr. Obama leaves, have admitted that they smoked marijuana in the past. Oh, no, he says the number doesn't work. It's too late. Bill Levin just texted in. It's too bad I don't have Bill Levin's number hanging out because I feel it's only the last 3 minutes of the show he texts me back. That's too bad because I'd love to get Bill on. You know what I might do? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. By the power vested in me of the click of the button, I am delaying the program. Let me just see. I'm going to see if I can get him on. It's worth a shot. I want to talk about this because I think it's a brilliant scheme he's got going on, and as things play out, it would be interesting to see what Mr. Levin has to say. So if I can get to the darn place in the texting here where I can message him back. See if we can't get Mr. Levin on the program. We are going over a station's downline. Behold, beware. We are going over time. Here we go. Oh, that's why. The things moved around in here. He says the number does not even work, bro. That is not good. I don't know how that could happen. Really? Let me see here. So let's give him another. We'll give him 248. So I said I gave him the Canalock no smell lines guest studio number. This is the Canalock.com's guest line. It's the studio celebrity guest line. Let's see if we can get him to ring. If he does, oh boy, do I have the phone plugged in the right place? I don't know. I don't like doing these live experiments unless they're important, and I think this is an important enough thing to delay the end of the program. Let me see if we got Okay, we've got a good dial tone there. Is it coming from here though? Let me just check that. It is not coming from there, so that's a good thing. So that means he can call that number unless he's trying to call it while I was just checking the dial tone. You know what I could do? I might be able to do this. Let me just see. I think, because we've had Bill on before, he might have, he texted me his number in in that interview situation. He says it's busy. It's because I picked up the phone, Bill. He did call the number. Let me just see if I can ring him back. I know I got his number in here. Somewhere way back here. La, 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 la. Back in March. There we go. Oh, see, he did it in such a way that I don't think I can call it. Yes, I can. But it's not. So I have to do it this way. It's a 317. Now I got to go back and look at the number because it won't let me touch it and call it. Oh, I can do it this way. Duh. Trying to call it on a cell phone. Here we go. Let's see if we can get Bill on the radio here. I'm going to push the button. Boy, it's got an awful buzz on that line. What happened? Is anybody there? Boy, that was really weird. All right, we'll disconnect that line. I'll try to get him from the other phone line. There's got to. I don't like that line anyways. Jeez, what's up with that? Oh, we hit all the buttons. All the buttons at once. Down, 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 down. I've got to turn all the phone buttons off now. Here we go. Try it again. Just see if we can get him. I think we can. 1317. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. It's, I think the old school, that's a lot better signal, I'll tell you that. There's still a little buzz to it. I don't know if we're going to get him or not. I'm going to text him. Calling you now.
You have reached the voicemail box of 31.
Oh, yeah, I can't. I don't want to air that. I'm trying to call you, Bill. What is going on there? You know, I don't think, he says it's busy, and he says it's not working. I don't trust it. Let me see. All right, this is an experiment gone awry. I think we're still going to get him, though. Maybe, maybe not. I might have delayed the end of the program for nothing. For nothing. We'll see what happens. Trying to get the bill. Don't make me go all the way back there. Last try. All right, here we go. If we can't get him on at the end of today's show, and I've kept you hanging on needlessly, it's still dialing. It's got the old rotary dial.
Hello?
Hey, Bill.
Green Steve?
It is Green Steve.
Steve Green? How the fuck are you, sir?
I am fantastic. It sounds like I caught you in some kind of meeting.
It's okay. I'm going in the other room.
Listen, I just had, we are actually over the end of our program today. We are beyond the 8 o'clock mark by 3 minutes. We're normally on from 7 until 8. We are on the air. Is it okay that I've got you on the air?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, I don't want to, accidentally have you say and do stuff that you didn't want to be on the air.
No. It's all good, bro.
So, tell me about this story. I think it's fascinating. I covered it towards the beginning of the program. We read the entire story from Indy Star today. It's fascinating. I did not see the post that you had put on Facebook. I'm surprised.
I put a post on Facebook to ask everybody not to smoke at the first service because of the police presence. Our chief of police gifted us with his opinion, and his opinion is not kind. And having an elected official to come out and say that we were a blasphemous religion and that we're comparable to Jim Jones are horrid things to say.
Yes, they are.
If you said that about the Pope, every Catholic in the city would be, tearing down your building. He opened up the door for civil prosecution, for civil
action. Yeah.
So rather than going through all the turmoil of arrest and getting people harassed and all this, we're going to have a service without any cannabis, and then we're going to go off and we're going to put an injunction against him and sue the city and everybody else.
Have the lawyers given you some chime on this? Are they ready to bite at the heels? Have they got veins in their teeth yet?
Oh yeah. They are all just pumped, and they look like a bunch of pit bulls ready to let go.
Look, this news conference, I didn't get a chance to see it. If I'd seen it, I'd have probably found a place to tape it and put it on the front of the show. Maybe I'll do that for tomorrow's program.
It was a carnival of shame from our city officials.
I gotta say,
our prosecutor's okay. It was just the chief of police who was just way over the edge.
You're a colorful guy, Bill.
Hey, it's a great world. We should all live in it and have a lot of fun while we're here.
You've got a picture with the peacock. Is that your peacock?
Yes, I have a peacock. He's about 12 years old. His name is Bert.
Bert the peacock.
Yeah. I got a cockatoo. I got chickens. I got goats. I got dogs, cats.
So NBC's not suing you then for the peacock, no?
No.
I'm just saying you're a colorful person. That's why they used that peacock in the days where they switched from black and white to color. And they said, hey, let's adopt the peacock.
Did you see there's a news clip out there with my peacock screwing?
No.
One of the newscasters came over from the Indianapolis Star, and she started filming, and she included it on the interview of my peacock fucking.
I hope it was another peacock.
Yeah. It was his wife, Bert and Alice. But yeah, it was. I've never had a video of my peacock doing it, and I would like to thank the people at the Indianapolis Star for putting that up front for everybody.
Is the female bird a peak hunt? I'm just saying.
Yeah, sort of. Depends on what day of the week it is and if she's passing an egg or not.
I'm just saying, if the terminology, petcock, I always thought was an interesting term too. Petcock. I'm just saying. This business with the marijuana in church is this something that how do you foresee this coming out, Bill? I mean, I don't want you to predict the future, but it sounds like you're on solid ground there. According to the plan, you're doing, I think, the right thing by taking this to civil court instead of being a defendant in criminal court. That's got to be a grand move.
Well, we're using RFRA as an offense, not a defense.
Well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. That's how I described it on the program here today, that you're using this for one edge, the edge that you created to really discriminate publicly against people that the Supreme Court said you can't do. Really, that's what's going on. I mean, the Supreme Court was a marriage thing, but the business of discrimination had nothing to do with marriage. It had to do with businesses being able to legally tell a gay person to piss off, wasn't it?
Oh, dude. There are now people legally telling Church of Cannabis people to piss off.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We had one member wore her new shirt into a local convenience store, and the local convenience store refused to serve her.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is because of the shirt that she was wearing?
Yes.
And the shirt proclaimed her belonging to the First Church of Cannabis?
Yes.
By the way, where can you get a First Church of Cannabis shirt? I think that would be badass.
We just got them here in the last 2 days. We just got them in.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to get me one of them, Bill.
Well, we can probably work that
out. So the game plan here is then Wednesday's the first church service. Why is Wednesday the first church service?
Because on Wednesdays is the day we learn. Live, love, laugh, learn, create, grow, teach. Each one stands for a different day.
Okay. So part of it has to do with the way that the church is organized.
Right. On Tuesdays we do comedy night because that's laugh.
Okay.
We enshrine each day with a different header. Monday is love. Monday you got to build your love up for the week. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. That's what we're doing today. We're building up love for the guys trying to come in and bust on you on Wednesday. We're building up with some love that you can't deny. There's nothing going on here. Nothing to see goodbye, Mr. Policeman. Because they were ready to tear open those doors and start getting out the billy clubs and the cops, weren't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was very unlike our police force for our police chief to make these kind of noises. We don't have police problems like Baltimore or Kansas. We have really decent officers here who are decent family guys and loving members of our community. The thug brutes that are on the coast is not the kind of officers we have in our state.
So where you say it was off color for him to make these kind of public statements? Do you think it was under pressure from others?
No, I think he really believes we're a blasphemous thing. He said it too much with a full heart.
Oh, so he's fully involved in emotion in his declaration.
Yes. He gave forth an opinion of his bias when it was unwarranted.
Isn't that the position of the Attorney General of the state? I thought that would be their position.
Yeah, no, our Attorney General in the state is staying far out of this. He wants nothing to do with this one.
It would seem like it would be something that to avoid until it landed on your lap in such a way that you didn't have a choice but to deal with that hot potato.
Yeah. No, we're going to keep it out of our state Attorney General's desk. It's going to be left in the city. I can see that now.
So Wednesday had nothing to do with the idea that this is when the law in Indiana takes effect. Doesn't it just finally go into effect this Wednesday?
It goes into effect on Wednesday, and when the law goes into effect is when we can actually
enjoy its protection.
Enjoy its protection and also file our countersuit. We can't file our countersuit until
it goes into effect. I was just explaining that principle legally to people on the air preceding our conversation here today. That you have no legal standing until the law actually takes effect, which is Wednesday.
Right.
And I think that you'll be just as prompt with that standing as you were in the creation of the church the day that they filed the RFRA.
We're on it, babe.
Bill Levin, thanks for coming on the program. Look, I got to follow you in this endeavor. Do you anticipate that the court will put an injunction out based on the RFA ruling? Do you think that this will be adjudicated before the next Wednesday comes along or the next church service comes along?
We are seriously hoping so. We've got lawyers just waiting to plunge, but they can't plunge until Wednesday.
Are the news media starting to bird dog in on this? Is the camel's nose under the tent yet?
We have had a lot of interesting pushback from various departments of the city. They want us to get permits for absolutely everything. And
Wait a minute. Doesn't that violate the RFRA too?
Well, all of a sudden we had the Board of Health here, we had the Fire Marshal here, we had zoning here, we have city codes here, enforcement, and everything. Everybody's come through and checked us, and we're all passing.
So the only thing left is, can we have weed in church?
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only thing we're really working on.
Wow. Bill, I guess I got to remind us myself that we're over time, but I thank you for coming on. When should I check back in with you? Can you check back in with me when something results on this? Can you give me a Facebook blast and let me know? Because I'd love to have you back on after that happens.
I would love to be on. You've got my cell phone number. Call me anytime you need.
Oops. Okay, sorry. You know what? I'm trying to bear with me. Good Lord. Hang on. There's some technical issues happening. I was trying to create the end of the show. It looks like I might have started the beginning of the show by accident. I know there's noise that you're hearing. Okay, I got it stopped.
There we go.
Yeah, that was annoying, I'm sure, from your end. We couldn't hear it on this end, but I know you were hearing it.
Yes.
Bear with me 1 second while I click to the click so that I can get towards the end of the show. There we go. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the marijuana community, Bill Levin. You're amongst them, and I think that you're one of the guys on the cutting edge, and I think that we're going to see your mug in some press in coming days. I can't wait for it.
Oh, yeah.
So give everybody at the church, how many people are in the church services now? How many people belong? Do you know? Do you have an idea?
We're over 1,000 now.
Over 1,000 people. Tell the people of your congregation I said hello and thank you for participating. And now Bill can't hear us. So, Bill, thanks for coming on the program. We're up against the clock. We got to run. We'll see you tomorrow for another, hopefully, regular length edition of the Full Melt program right here on thefullmelt.com. iTunes. Find us on iTunes. And get a T-shirt.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.